Well, there's one more question that we need to ask and answer about rapture, and that is, so what? If we don't know exactly when the rapture is going to happen, then why even study it? There's nothing we can do to change it or affect it or hasten it. We can pray for it to happen, but why do we even need to know about the end times? That's a good question. But if you understand rapture, it should affect your life in some way. I mean, Paul taught the Thessalonians about it. That's what the book of 1 Thessalonians is about. And 2 Thessalonians is about eschatology. And God revealed what happens in the end times to John. And Paul referred to it. So it's not only the book of Revelation, but we find throughout the epistles. In 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse 7, Peter says, the Lord is at hand. In James chapter 5 and verse 8, we're told the judge is standing at the door. There's an imminency to Christ's return which should actually affect our lives. That's why Jesus told the parables of the 10 virgins, for example, that those that were good with the oil and that they were alert and that they were waiting and watchful. The parable of the stewards, the parable of the talents and the minas, all of these have to do with an imminent return and to give an accounting. Well, Jonathan Edwards, for example, he said in one of his famous 70 resolutions, resolution number 19, resolved never to do anything which I should be afraid to do if I expected it would not be above an hour before I should hear the last trump. Not that trump, the trumpet of the return of Christ that was mentioned in 1 Thessalonians 4 and in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, that the trumpet will sound when Christ comes, when rapture happens. And so Jonathan Edwards was saying that he would be resolved to never do anything in his life that he would be afraid to do if he expected to hear that trumpet sound, to hear of Christ returning and rapture happening within that hour. So he wants to live every hour of his life as if rapture could happen then, and he wouldn't be ashamed or afraid to be living that way if Christ returned that very hour. And I think that is exactly how the scriptures present the imminency of Christ, the return of Christ being at any moment. Let me read you one passage just to give us some devotional thoughts about this. In 2 Peter chapter 3, Peter says, but the day of the Lord will come like a thief. There's imminency. Thieves don't make appointments. They show up when you least expect it. The day of the Lord will come like a thief, and then the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the heavenly bodies will be burned up and dissolved, and the earth and the works that are done on it will be exposed. Since all these things are thus to be dissolved, what sort of people ought you to be in lives of holiness and godliness, waiting for the hastening of the coming of the day of God? So what Peter's saying there is that your eschatology should affect your life, that your view of the end times and how suddenly it's going to happen and how completely things will be changed, these things should affect your lives. What kind of people ought you to be in lives of holiness and godliness? The knowledge that Christ could return at any moment, the knowledge that he's going to set all things right, should affect the way we live. Just like Jonathan Edwards, that we should never do anything that we would be ashamed of, that we would never do anything that we would be afraid to do, knowing that Jesus would return that very hour. So I hope this little study on rapture and eschatology has been helpful to make you more holy, more Christ-like, and longing for the day that Jesus would return. God bless.